Hi guys, welcome. Today I want to tell you a story about an estranged avoidant marriage and how my client Phoebe fixed hers. So you can take the same lessons to your own marriage and apply it there so that you can start healing it as well. So Ethan, Phoebe's husband, started to show avoidant tendencies about 3 years ago. And during that time, they actually both barely spoke to each other. They had known each other for over 20 years, 9 of which they were married for. They had 2 kids, 2 successful careers, a dog, a house with the white picket fence, basically the whole happy package. And yet, for the past 3 years, Phoebe was not happy. She was taking care of the kids, running the household mostly by herself, and Ethan was avoiding her at all costs, sleeping in the spare room since about a year, spending all of his free time in the garage, tinkering on his projects. At this point, it felt like they were roommates, like Phoebe was roommates with her own husband. Now, she of course tried everything to fix their marriage. She read books, articles, watched YouTube videos. They even went to counseling a few times. But no matter what she tried, her avoidant husband remained absent in their marriage, to the point where the idea of separating was silently creeping up. Now, I'm a former avoidant myself. My wife and I also had a period of struggling in our marriage. And in this video, I'm going to explain the most common traps I see with my coaching clients who are trying to fix their own marriage. Then I'm going to give you new and rather counterintuitive suggestions on what you should do instead to actually bring your avoidant husband closer. So the first thing is, instead of trying to continue your marriage as is, to think of it as a fresh start. I commonly see people trying to pick up and continue their marriage from where they left off. So when Ethan, Phoebe's husband, became increasingly avoidant in their marriage, Phoebe kept relating to him as though they just needed to quickly patch things up, and then they could finally continue their marriage and life as it had previously been. She would go about her day and treat the marriage issues as a small bother that should easily be fixed. If only Ethan would just stop being so avoidant. And Phoebe would try to reel him back in by assigning him tasks in an effort to participate in the family responsibilities more. She would ask him to take out the trash, to do some of the grocery shopping, clean the yard, and call their children to see how they were doing. In other words, Phoebe was trying to recreate their previous harmonious marriage and almost pretend that Ethan's avoidant behavior wasn't that big of an issue. So, in a sense, she was in denial of how serious the underlying problem actually was, and was unaware of just how much bigger it was yet to become. So, if you've reached a point of crisis in your own marriage, then what's really important is not to relate to your avoidant husband as though you can quickly patch things up and just continue your marriage as it were. Instead, you need to think of it as a fresh start where the underlying issues that brought you to this point are yet to be revealed. And I guarantee you there's more to it than meets the eye. The next thing Phoebe learned in an effort to break the avoidant husband's spell was, instead of trying to fix the marriage, she tried to accept the circumstances. So we already covered how Phoebe did finally face the music and start relating to their marriage as a fresh start instead of insisting on continuing it. Then, however, her initial next reaction to Ethan's avoidant traits was to focus on fixing things. She put an immense amount of effort into researching attachment styles, trying to relate to him differently, putting less pressure on him. Did I mention she convinced him to go to a couple of counseling sessions? But nothing landed. In fact, it almost all seemed to have the opposite effect. Her avoidant husband was becoming even more avoidant. This understandably sent Phoebe into a spiral of doubt and panic because she understood that if things continued this way, it would spell the end of their marriage and her life as she knew it. So it wasn't until I coached her on accepting the circumstances, not liking or agreeing with them, simply accepting the circumstances as they were, that things started to improve with Ethan. You see, the reason trying to fix a marriage can often have the opposite effect is because an avoidant partner will feel increasingly scrutinized and broken as you put a growing amount of focus on them. So you might accidentally be creating an environment that feels like pressure rather than acceptance. And acceptance is so crucial. Again, it does not mean you are okay with the circumstances. It means you are no longer fighting them and are accepting them for what they are. But the next trap Phoebe fell into was giving up because she felt like she had tried everything. Though it was very understandable that Phoebe felt like throwing in the towel after years of trying to fix things with her avoidant husband, I told her that it was actually too soon. Because though she felt like she had tried everything to mend things, the reality was she had only tried what she knew and could think of to mend things. But we don't know what we don't know. So when I suggested a new approach, to Phoebe's own surprise, she suddenly got positive results because it was previously out of her reality that such an approach could even exist. And in this case, it was about building on the previous point of accepting things for what they were and then truly trying to understand Ethan's perspective on why he was being avoidant. The conversation went something like this. Can you help me understand where things went so wrong between us? What do you mean? Well, we've become increasingly estranged and distant with each other, and it's been going on for years now. Right. Yeah, I know. I honestly just don't know what to do about it. So you're saying you see it, but you don't know what to do about it? It's been bugging me too, you know. I just feel like it's never good enough. Like, no matter what I try, it just only seems to make things worse. So you feel like no matter what you try, it's just not good enough and doesn't work out? Yeah, basically. How long have you felt this way? Probably about 5 years. That's a lot longer than I would have thought. Why didn't you say something? I tried. I tried so many times and you just wouldn't listen. So you feel like you actually tried to communicate that your efforts weren't good enough, but I just didn't listen to you. Yeah. And that's why I gradually gave up and withdrew. It all just felt so pointless. Well, if that's how you've been feeling all these years, it actually kind of makes sense that you withdrew. I appreciate you saying that, and I appreciate you sharing. And because I had prepared Phoebe for this conversation and specifically told her not to try and fix it at the end, the conversation ended right there. But to her own surprise, Ethan deliberately started making a whole lot more effort around the house the very next day and showed up more than he had for years, all thanks to the new approach in that one conversation. So if you are in a situation where you're feeling increasingly hopeless and like you've really tried everything, chances are you've tried everything that is within your reality because that's ultimately all we can do. So consider that there might be an alternative approach or approaches that you simply don't know about yet, where a very minor tweak can result in really positive changes quickly. And if you're feeling stuck and you're at your wit's end and would like additional help in drawing in your avoidant husband, consider working with us. You can find all the details in the video description. Now, despite her best efforts, Phoebe is of course human and was inevitably going to make some mistakes along the way, as we all do. And the next lesson she learned was instead of managing, she tried to be vulnerable. Phoebe was the type of person who had her life under control. She meal planned, organized paperwork in neatly labeled folders, and considered her calendar an absolute lifesaver that she couldn't live without. She also approached her marriage and Ethan in a similar manner, though. She tried to keep things structured, organized, and under control. And although it helped her accumulate a lot of theoretical knowledge about relationships and attachment styles, her need for control and structure was actually what continued to alienate and push Ethan further away into the avoidant realm. This is because Ethan rarely experienced her as vulnerable. Until one day, she finally came up to him and gave him a whole spiel about why she was trying to manage everything, that she was trying to do the right thing, that she was trying to fix things and bring them back to where they once were. And she continued to say, "But I know I haven't been perfect either, and I've put a lot of pressure and expectations on you, on us, and that hasn't helped matters either. I just don't know what else to do." Phoebe was vulnerable. This was enough to soften Ethan to a point where, for the first time in years, he hugged her like he meant it. And his embrace actually felt comforting and safety inducing to her. She cried in his arms, and they had an hours long conversation afterwards that felt very productive to both of them. There was, of course, still a lot of work to do from there onwards, but these were the first initial strong steps they took in setting a new, solid foundation that they could build on for a healthy and happy marriage moving forward. So if you find yourself struggling with vulnerability, consider the possibility that you are in a power struggle with your avoidant husband. He's not willing to back down, and neither are you. So until one of you finally makes an initial genuine bid for connection that is on an equal playing field, it's going to be a stalemate. And if that continues for long enough, it's also going to continue deteriorating your marriage. And because I don't want that for you, I would highly recommend picking at least one of these approaches I covered in the video. Understand it properly and try applying it with your avoidant husband. It's going to feel risky, it's going to feel vulnerable, and it's going to feel uncomfortable. But you can do this, and I want you to see some initial positive first results. So take hope, break the patterns, and take the first step today to restore and heal your marriage.